Hi, friends. This is part one of the reading lesson for third grade. Please have your booklets open to page 22. You will also need a pencil and a highlighter. Now, if you have a couple different highlighters, actually three different highlighters, that might be helpful today. If you only have one color, that's totally fine. We are going to read half of this play today, and then in the next video, you will find the other half. We're going to read a play today called The True Jack. Now, if you look at page 22, you will notice that it starts by showing us the characters. We have a host, a cow, a butcher, a mom, a giantess, and a giant. Okay, so those are going to be our characters. So when you have a play, it always introduces the characters first, and it also gives the setting. So the setting is where or when a play or story takes place. So we are going to be reading the story called The True Jack. And you might be familiar with this story or parts of this story. What we're going to do is we are going to read through the first half and we are going to determine the point of view of the cow, the butcher, and Jack's mother. Okay, so we'll be going through and we'll be highlighting together. At the very end, you're going to write a summary and submit that on Canvas. So if you are ready, let's go ahead and get started.
Extended Read 2. Remember to annotate as you read.
The True Jack by Gare Thompson. Cast of characters. Host. Mom, Jack's mother. Cow. Giantess. Butcher. Giant. Setting. A castle in the late 1600s. A small group of lords, ladies, craftsmen, and peasants sit on benches, the floor, and other places in the room. They are the audience for what is essentially a 17th century talk show. The host sits across a table, interviewing Cow. Welcome all! Thanks for coming to Inside Fairy Tales. Today we're meeting with many of the people who know Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk fame. What is he really like? My first guest is the cow. So, from your point of view, what is Jack like?
So really quick, let's stop right there. So we know this is kind of like a talk show. So the host is interviewing the different characters on what they think Jack is like. Okay, so it's going to be our job to highlight what Jack is like. So pay attention to that.
Well, first of all, my name is Sam. Jack never called me by my name. It was always about Jack. Are you saying Jack was selfish? Do cows moo? The boy is young, so maybe he'll change. But he got rid of me just like that. A couple of dry days and bingo! Traded. That doesn't sound very nice, but I believe Jack did need to trade you. He didn't have a choice. Oh, that's what they all say. All? All the fairy tale heroes are the same. They just want to be rich, or famous, or both. They are all selfish, including Jack, especially Jack. What else could Jack have done?
All right, so before we go on to the next page, I want you to grab your highlighter. If you're using different colors, just grab one. This will be your color for cow. So how does cow feel about Jack? If you look back in this first thing that cow says about Jack, he says, first of all, my name is Sam. Jack never called me by my name. It was always about Jack. So, that tells us that, that he thinks that Jack, it was always about Jack, right? And then the host asks, was he selfish? And he says, do cows moo? Like, of course, right? And then you jump down to here and it says all fairy tale heroes are the same. They just want to be rich or famous or both. They are all selfish, including Jack, especially Jack. All right, let's turn the page.
If he needed money, he could have found a job on another farm. Jack is a selfish young man. That's my point of view about Jack. Well, there you have it. Sam the cow says Jack is a selfish young man.
Okay, so we learned that now Cow actually says Jack is a selfish young man. That is my point of view. So we should probably highlight that. So Cow thinks that Jack is selfish. All right, let's go ahead and keep going.
Now, let's see what the butcher has to say. Mr. Butcher, thanks for joining us. Tell us your point of view of Jack. Bless my stars, he was a kind lad. Yes, he seemed kind to me. You think he was kind? Why? The boy just wanted to make sure his mother had food and clothes. And smart! He knew a good deal. Look how the beans changed his life. I'm sure he's going to give a lot of his money to people who need it.
So have you guys figured out that they're talking about Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk? Okay, so the butcher has a bit of a different point of view about Jack, right? So if you have a different color highlighter, I want you to grab it. And now we're going to highlight what the butcher thinks. So if you look at that first thing that the butcher says, he says he was a kind lad, right? So kind means, we know what kind means. A lad is a boy, okay? So young boy. And then he says the boy just wanted to make sure his mother had food and clothes. And smart, he knew a great deal. So he thinks that he's very smart. The butcher thinks that Jack is very smart and that he's very kind to his mother, gives her clothes and food. Okay, let's see what Cow has to say.
He hasn't given me a thing. Selfish. It seems that others don't believe Jack is so kind. What else makes you think he is kind? Jack had tears in his eyes when he handed over the cow. His hands were shaking. You could tell he didn't want to trade the cow. He had no choice. Horse feathers. What are your final words on Jack? He was a kind and smart boy. I have some seeds with me. Want to trade that nice diamond ring?
Okay, so the butcher continues to tell them about how Jack is kind and smart. So we should probably highlight this in that same color that you did for the butcher earlier. Mine was pink. And then the cow is still saying that Jack is selfish, right? Whoops. So go ahead and grab your Jack color highlighter. And we are going to highlight what Cow said on page 24. He hasn't given me a thing. Selfish. All right. So Cow thinks he's selfish. Butcher thinks he's kind and smart. Now we're going to find out what the mama thinks.
No thanks, Butcher. Well, folks, there you have it. The butcher claims Jack is kind and smart. Now let's see what Jack's mother has to say. Mothers often have a special point of view. Mom, may I call you Mom? Tell us all what Jack was like as a child. Oh, he was a sweet, happy child, but he could never sit still. A regular jumping bean. I had to watch him like a hawk. He would run about and leap off trees without a thought. Jack was a daredevil from early on. Yes, he was. He often would act first and think later. So, Jack was impulsive. Oh my, yes. Many's the time I wished I had a leash for him. I had to keep an eye on him 24/7. Was Jack a good worker?
Okay, so grab your other colored highlighter. I'm going to use green this time. And the mom says that he was a sweet, happy child, but could never sit still. And that he would often act first and think later. Okay. And the mom says she had to keep an eye on him, like he's kind of crazy, right? Okay, let's keep going and see what else Mother thinks.
Well, he wasn't lazy. Decision-making was not Jack's strong suit. He'd lose focus easily. He'd be milking the cow, and then he'd see a butterfly and chase it. The milk would go sour. Now, Mom, I understand you were upset when Jack came home with those beans. I was tied to a fit. Fit to be tied. What a foolish boy. I was sure the butcher had taken advantage of Jack. It was a fair trade. I told you he should never have traded me. Silly and selfish. Quiet back there. It seems we have some different opinions about Jack and what happened. Well, it turned out right in the end, but I hope he doesn't keep making, what was that word? Oh yes, impulsive decisions. Let's sum up your point of view. Jack is impulsive and acts before he thinks. Yes, but he's a good boy. There you have it. 3 guests, 3 different points of view. Let's see what some other characters from Beanstalk thought of Jack. First, we'll talk with the giantess.
All right, so we're going to stop there for today. Let's go ahead and do some more highlighting. So keep your mom colored highlighter. And she says that decision-making was not Jack's strong suit. He'd lose focus easily. And she called him a foolish boy. Okay. And the mom also down here at the bottom, the host says, let's sum up your point of view. Jack is impulsive and acts before he thinks. So this is actually the mom's point of view. So we'll highlight that in the mom's color. And she says, yes, but he's a good boy. So mom knows he's impulsive and acts before he thinks, but she also thinks that he's a good boy. Now, let's go back to the cow. So that was your first one. Mine was yellow. And the cow believes that Jack is silly and selfish. So we have one more thing to prove that the cow thinks she's silly and selfish. Okay, so we are now going to write a little summary together. We'll start it together and then you will finish it on your own. All right, so we're going to write our summary on page 26. We have a ton of room right there. So you can start by writing the word summary. And basically, we're just going to go through and describe each of the people's, the character's point of view. Okay, so let's start by saying the host asks 3 characters about their point of view on Jack. And we'll start with the cow. The cow thinks Jack is selfish, right? Maybe very selfish. The butcher thinks Jack is kind and smart. The mom thinks Jack is, and you're going to fill in this part. Remember, if you look in all of my green highlights or your highlights, she called him foolish, but she also called him a good boy. He's impulsive and thinks before he acts. So your job is to finish this last sentence. Make sure you write down all of this for the summary. When you go onto Canvas, you are going to read me your entire summary. If you are in Mrs. Smith's class, you may or may not do this assignment. Mrs. Peterson's class, you will be reading me your entire summary. That is it for this part of the lesson. We will finish the story tomorrow. See you later, friends.